Hello and welcome to Coop's Corner. I'm your host, Cooper Petagna. We have a great show for you today as we break down week 3 of college football. And where else can you start than Knoxville, Tennessee, as the Georgia Bulldogs claw back to life behind their quarterback Gunnar Stockton and snatch a huge victory in Knoxville from the Tennessee Volunteers to make it 9 consecutive wins over Tennessee. An absolutely heartbreaking loss. We'll break that down here in a minute. We'll also break down Texas A&M's huge win on the road against Notre Dame, the first ranked road win in 13 times for the Aggies. We'll also break down LSU's SEC opener against Florida and how they confused a very young, turnover-prone DJ Lagway. All that, a lot more. Openings at Virginia Tech, openings at UCLA. We'll break down a little bit of Arch Manning as well. But first, guys, make sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/CoopsPetag. You can also find me on all the socials, including X, TikTok, Instagram, at Cooper Petagna. We're going to grow this show organically, one by one, and it takes an absolute village. I've been so overwhelmed with the support that I've had thus far. It's an exciting thing to do to launch a channel. It's an exciting thing to do to launch a podcast, go out on your own and do your own thing. I'm having a blast with it. So guys, I hope you are too. Going to try to make this the best as possible. Like I said, great show. You can't really start a show without talking about what happened in Knoxville. And I kind of want to set it up in a certain way where I'm going to start with the dude stamp. We started with the dude stamp last week. Last week, the dude stamp was Bo Prabula. This week, the dude stamp is, drum roll please, Gunnar Stockton, quarterback, Georgia. And this is not a surprise. It's a surprise to me a little bit. It's not a surprise to anybody who watched that game over the weekend. And Gunnar Stockton, if you don't know anything about him, this guy just epitomizes what Kirby Smart wants at the quarterback position, wants in terms of representing his football team. He responded in such a huge way in Knoxville. You talk about a team that took some haymakers early, down 21-7, trailing late in the game by 8 points, needed to come back, engineers a touchdown scoring drive, 2-point conversion success. Georgia ultimately ends up winning the game in overtime. Stockton, 23 of 31, completed 74% of his passing attempts for his first ever 300-yard passing game. He had 2 touchdowns to go with it. Georgia escapes on the road, which quite honestly was one of the best games of college football that I have watched in a really long time. And I thought to myself, you know, people always say, how would you explain the game of American college football to someone who's never seen it before? And I would say, okay, go back and watch a copy of this game. 2:30 Central Time, Neyland Stadium, Knoxville, Tennessee. It had everything. College Game Day, Pat McAfee. It had the crew, it had Herbstreit, it had Fowler, it had a transfer quarterback with an underdog story, it had another underdog story in Gunnar Stockton, really trying to feel his way and become the guy for the Georgia Bulldogs. And this game went back and forth, haymakers. And it was what I would categorize as a win-at-all-costs type of game. And granted, we're at week 3 of the college football season. This game has a lot of playoff implications for 2 teams that, after this game, I think it's safe to say, will be in that conversation. But what a game, man. And for Josh Heupel, given the set of circumstances that he had after Nico Iamaleava decided to hit the transfer portal, they go out, they get Joey Aguilar from UCLA by way of Appalachian State. This young man played his tail off. First player in Tennessee history with 300-plus passing yards, 4 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown in a game versus an AP top 10 team. Granted, Peyton Manning played quarterback at Tennessee. So did T. Martin. There are a lot of really good players that came through that program that have played quarterback there. Gunnar Stockton, on the other end, just kept showing up and showing up and showing up. If you read my article that I did for CBS Sports before the game, I talked about Georgia's right side of their offensive line being a potential problem area. It was. Gunnar Stockton was on his back, feeling pressure throughout the game, and Georgia rotated a plethora of guys. You saw guys like Bo Hewley late in the second half. You saw Michael Uini. You saw Ernest Green, who started the game. You saw Juan Gaston at right guard. You saw Dontrell Glover at right guard. For Stacey Searles and Kirby Smart, they were just trying to figure it out. What did they do in the second half? They have a beautiful drive to start the second half, tone setting, run the ball right down Tennessee's throats. And that was really something that I think kind of took the air out of Neyland until Joey Aguilar was able to find Chris Brazzell on a huge explosive play. And then we went back and forth all over again. So a beautiful game. It is a beautiful game, this sport that we love to cover and we love to talk about. And if you're Georgia, think about it this way. It was a fourth 14-point comeback under Kirby Smart, third versus an AP top 15 team, but the first under Smart in a road game. This game was everything that Kirby Smart tries to indoctrinate into his locker room, for lack of a better term. This is a 4-quarter program. And when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And that's exactly what Georgia did. And I will say this. Yes, they needed a couple third down conversions. They needed a fourth down conversion. They needed Tennessee's top 2 DBs to be out. They needed a missed field goal at the end of regulation to go in overtime. They need a lot of things. But that happens. That's the game. You have to execute. And they had a little bit of luck, but they took advantage of it. That's a team. When you have the opportunity to take their will, you have to do it. And that's the difference between Georgia and a lot of other teams out there. You can't give them 9 lives because Kirby Smart is one of those type of guys. He's going to cash it in. He's going to take advantage of it. Took less than 3 plays for Georgia in overtime to punch it in behind Josh McCray for a touchdown. So Georgia, to me, is a really interesting team. I didn't expect them to give up 40-plus points. And in no world, if you would have told me that they were going to give up 40-plus points and that they would win, I'd say no way. Georgia was averaging 3.6 yards depth of target against Austin Peay the week before. There was no semblance of a vertical passing game. What did they do? First play, Colby Young, they target Ty Redmond, the freshman from Georgia, and they did that early and they did that often. I mentioned the 2 starting corners being out for Tennessee. That was the difference in the game. Jermon McCoy out, potential first-round draft pick. Ricky Gibson out. One of those guys is healthy. Tennessee wins this game. They targeted Ty Redmond 9 times, completing 6 passes for 113 yards and a touchdown. Whenever Georgia needed a big play, they went after number 4. Ty Redmond's going to be a really good football player. But it's his first start in the SEC. Just means more. Welcome. Now you got to go up. You got to defend Colby Young. You got to defend London Humphreys. You got to tackle Zachariah Branch in space. Here's the thing the stats won't show is that they threw to his side, especially in the screen game. They ran to his side in the running game. And they put him in conflict to where he was either going to have to make a play or he wasn't. And Georgia was able to capitalize off of that. And if you're Mike Bobo, that's exactly what you're supposed to do. Zach Branch was the version of what we thought he could be at Georgia. We saw that. The tight ends are so unbelievably detailed from a blocking standpoint, especially when they get to the second level. Kudos, man, because not a lot of people will talk about it. Lawson Lucky, Oscar Delp, Colby Young, Dylan Bell. It's the nuances that's kind of unleashed that perimeter run game. And the left side of that offensive line did enough. Monroe Freeling, Drew Bobo, left guard, forgetting his name, of course. But they did a really, really good job at the line of scrimmage. And Tennessee adjusted. Georgia came back, found some things that worked out for him, was able to get it done at the end. If you're Tennessee, everything that I just said that was a vulnerability for you is not going to be a vulnerability, I would guess, the rest of the season. You will get McCoy back. You will get Gibson back. Redmond then gives you depth and valuable playing experience. You have one of the best teams in the country on the ropes. And you let him off the hook. Denny Green. You let him off the hook. Defensively, you got to be better, but you got a budding star in Caleb Herring. Guy can play. And you find out what you had in Joey Aguilar in one of the biggest stages of college football. Guy played his tail off. Had an INT on a deep passing attempt. Really kind of served as a punt. I'm okay with it. Another one, miscommunication, probably on the receiver. I mean, he did everything that you could possibly imagine. Josh Heupel called a beautiful game. When it didn't work, it was because of execution. And 4 quarters of execution sometimes is hard to come by. So kudos to Georgia. Kudos to Gunnar Stockton. He's officially dude stamped. And I'll say this about Gunnar Stockton. I have been personally one of Gunnar Stockton's biggest critics. You go back to last week, I was scratching my head and saying, how do you put a playoff product on the field with no legitimate passing game in the intermediate to deep part of the field? This guy got hit. He got put on his back, and he just showed up and showed up and showed up and showed up. 4th and 6, dot. 3rd and 7, dot. Knows what's coming, stands in there, takes a hit, drives a truck that has 300,000 miles on it. That's older than me. Tough, blue-collar, Kirby Smart, Stetson Bennett, mailman. You get the picture. What he proved is that people need to stop talking about him, at least for now. This is a great individual performance from him, and he has shown that he is worthy of being a quarterback for a team that can compete for a college football playoff and a national championship. So kudos to you, Gunnar Stockton. I'm off your back, man. And I'll say this, that it really doesn't even tie into this conversation. What a great kid, man. Met him at the All-American Bowl. Great kid. Look you right in the eye, shake your hand. You can understand why his teammates in the locker room loves him, why they play hard for him. You cannot teach that stuff. He's brought up the right way. And he's resilient. I get it. It hasn't all been good. But when his best was needed, he delivered. That's what separates players, man. All right, guys, just a reminder, you are locked into Coop's Corner. Like I said, we're fired up. And we're trying to build this thing. So tell a friend. If you like to gamble, tell a friend. If you like college football, tell a friend. If you just like the way I go about business, tell a friend. We got a good product here. Leave a comment on the podcast. Leave a rating. I'm typically the one handing out stars. Now you can. All right, Texas A&M got a big victory on the road. 41-40 in South Bend. Notre Dame 0-2. And for Mike Elko and this team, we wanted to find out, okay, what were they about? Was this passing game legitimate? Was this real? Could these guys go in to an environment, play a team that played in the national championship last year, and win a really competitive game? And they did that. And Marcel Reed, 17-37, 360 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, INT. He rushed for 37 yards. He played a good game, man. First career game with 300-plus passing yards. And it helps when you have guys like KC Concepcion, who they bring over from NC State, ACC Offensive Freshman of the Year. It helps when you have guys like Mario Craver, who they bring over from Mississippi State. How about this, Mario Craver? First player with 200-plus receiving yards versus an AP top 10 team since Dalton Kincaid in 2022. This is Craver's 3rd straight 100-yard game. I tweeted it a week ago, and I said a guy that's going to be a household name in college football is Mario Craver. He showed up on a big stage. And for A&M, I thought the part of their game that was most impressive was their offensive line. All 5 starters back. That's where you got to be strong, and it showed up. They kept him clean. Reed also has the athletic ability, escapability to obviously take a little pressure off the offensive line. But that's where really things kind of opened up. I thought Notre Dame was a little light in the ass on the interior. That showed up against Miami. That showed up again this week. No true nose. And A&M was able to kind of establish that with Le'Veon Moss on the ground. I will say this, a blatant missed holding call on the go-ahead touchdown for Texas A&M in the fourth quarter with under 20 seconds left. That was bad. I understand it. Sometimes it happens. That was on Pasantis. And that was an SEC crew up there in South Bend. Just studying that game, not watching it, studying it, going back, watching it on the All-22. If Notre Dame was in a conference, they would be on the phone with that conference all day today. I thought there were 6, 7, potentially even 8 missed holding calls against Texas A&M. And it's not like A&M wasn't penalized. They were penalized 13 times. That's a lot. But in the trenches specifically in the trenches, it was way past the let the boys play. It was kind of like, I'd go back and look around and I'm like, where's the laundry? The Notre Dame fans aren't going to like that, especially with an SEC officiating crew. The other side of the ball for Notre Dame, I think right guard spot, Kirby Lambert, they got to get that established. This is an offensive line that's going to get better. Eli Raridan, I think, is developing into one of the best all-around tight ends in the country, especially from a receiving standpoint, becoming a nice safety net for C.J. Carr. But I love him in line. Jeremiah Love, we can talk all about him. I love him. Love is love. You think about the 3-down capability of Jeremiah Love and what he brings to the table. We know he can run it. We know his receiving ability out of the backfield is dynamic. Stuff he put in pass pro against A&M, who loves second, third level pressures, stoning dudes. So when you're a running back, you want to go in the first round, you got to be perfect. He's pretty darn close. Malachi Fields emerging. C.J. Carr, in my opinion, has done enough through his first 2 starts to win each of those games. I think the issue is you flip to the other side, Chris Ash, his defense, I thought was going to bounce back outside of Leonard Moore. Kassan Hobbs, Stromer on the back end, safety spot's been a little bit of a vulnerability. Christian Gray has been vulnerable, not what I expected out of him. The nickel spot is kind of glaring. It was Malachi Toney week 1, Mario Craver this week that went over 200. Marcus Freeman, first head coach in program history with multiple 0-2 starts. Notre Dame, 68 points allowed in first 2 games, most in program history. Panic button, 0. Marcus Freeman's a good coach, man. He's proved that. They got to get things cleaned up. I mentioned the concerns on the back end of the defense. It's uncharacteristic of them. We've seen this before. I know what he's made of. Notre Dame's a above average to good team. They will find their way. Will they be a playoff team? I don't know. One other tidbit, Drake Bowen, absolute headhunter. I'll say this on A&M, last thing I'll say, the quarterback run game, he didn't do much, 37 yards on the ground, Marcel Reed, but the threat of it in terms of what it does for your passing game and your running game, it's a big deal. And I want to say that because we're going to talk about another game here in a second with the team that's ranked inside the top 5 that can't run the ball right now. And that's LSU. LSU 20-10 victory over Florida at home. Death Valley, Brian Kelly, I believe, goes to 17-1 at nighttime in Baton Rouge. That's what you want. Home field advantage is your best friend. In LSU's defense, let's start there because they were the story of the game. They picked off DJ Lagway 5 times. And this game early was a little nervy for LSU. They lose Whit Weeks to a targeting penalty. He's ejected. Then you have you have West Weeks go down in the second half with a calf strain. Things got dicey. The depth got tested. But that LSU secondary, man. A.J. Halsey, Tamarcus Cooley, Mansour Delane, DJ Pickett. I mean, they all got in on the action. There's no 2 more important people in that organization right now, outside of the players, than Blake Baker and Austin Thomas, in my humble opinion. Because those 2 guys, with the work that they have done this offseason, obviously carrying it into the season, is the difference in this team being undefeated, being ranked in the top 3, and then having that margin of error. LSU had 5 3-and-outs. Couldn't run the ball a lick. Had the big explosive at the end of the game where they put Jack Pyburn in at fullback and they ice it. But they couldn't get anything done. And it was just ping pong, back and forth. Defense, you're up. 3-and-out. Defense, you're up. Rinse, repeat. And the defense, time and time again, was up to task. But that's not going to be like that every weekend. That was DJ Lagway's first SEC road start. Like true environment on the road, Death Valley. And it showed up. And DJ Lagway, if you're a Florida fan, he missed spring, he missed summer fall, he's pressing. This team, obviously when he was playing well last year, you saw what they could be. You saw glimpses of that early in the first half. Holding penalty, wipes out a huge touchdown to go up 10 points. Flipped the entire script of the game. Florida's got a good roster. They're not doing anything to help themselves out. You can't win with 5 interceptions on the road. I think it's second most in program history, 5 INTs in one game. So Florida, DJ Lagway, now with that schedule, it gets really, 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 really dicey for Billy Napier. The USF game, any goodwill that he had, it's gone. So we'll see what happens there. The point I was making with Marcel Reed is that LSU's most dynamic running game was under Jaden Daniels, and that obviously seems self-explanatory given the type of athlete that he was. But the threat of having to defend a Jaden Daniels is a completely different game. And for Garrett Nussmeier, that threat does not exist. And the other thing is, I'm not a coach. I'm a personnel guy. I don't like to get into scheme. It's not my thing. I'll tell you what I see in the players, the size, the athletic movements, the projection, the trajectory. But I thought Florida was a little vulnerable on the edge coming into the game based off of what we saw against USF. And they didn't really test it. They didn't want to run behind Tyree Adams. They didn't want to run behind Weston Davis. I can understand that. But you're trying to run on Caleb Banks, a potential top 32 pick, behind Braylon Moore, who's given you everything he's got on a sprained ankle. The running game has to show up for this team to have a legitimate shot at winning a national championship. And as good as the defense is, no defense, in my opinion, is good enough to be able to carry this type of offensive performance week in and week out. And I don't know if you saw it, there was a little interaction between Brian Kelly and a reporter at post-game where he was being questioned, rightfully so, on the lack of offensive production in the running game. And he responded by saying, "You're spoiled." And both of them are right. That's the reality. People are spoiled to react in such a way where you beat an opponent who beat you last year with a very capable offense and quarterback. And it was a hard-fought game, and your guys, and they strain, and they do everything you ask them to do, and you win the game. And then the first question you get asked when you get to the presser is, why can't you run the football? I get both sides of it. I thought it was interesting. They need to run the ball better. Also understand, winning any game in college football is difficult. And here's my last thing on LSU. In my opinion, Garrett Nussmeier, fully healthy, sharp Garrett Nussmeier, is running away with the conversation for the number 1 pick in the 2026 NFL draft. I'm only speculating. I don't know. I don't. Let me say that. I don't know. Something seems a little off with him. The lack of vertical explosives, not even executed vertical explosives, the lack of passing attempts to stretch the field. Given the Aaron Andersons, given the Chris Hiltons, given the Berrien Browns. I mean, we hadn't seen that. He just seems a little off, and I can't help but think maybe he's a little banged up. I don't know. Just my eye. That's it. Because when he's full go, the ball's coming out a little bit different. It's a little bit faster. Everything's a little bit quicker. It's a little bit tighter. And it just hadn't seen that level of urgency maybe since week 1. All right, guys, just a reminder, you were locked in to Coop's Corner. Make sure to like and subscribe as we're just about at the 30-minute mark for this show. Good timing. Love that. Great show. I mean, we're recapping this week. We're not previewing next week. The games that I'm thinking about previewing next week: Florida at Miami. Little less juice there, but don't tell the Floridians that. Big game. Texas Tech at Utah. I want to dive deep into that game. I think my what I'm learning about myself is I can only really study 3 of these games a week, like rightfully so. Auburn at Oklahoma's 1, Michigan at Nebraska's 1. And then that third one is either going to be Florida, Miami, Texas Tech, Utah, or Illinois at Indiana. And I kind of want to study that game because I'm a fan of Fernando Mendoza. All right, I said we were going to talk some coaching movement. So let's talk some coaching movement. It's week 3 of college football, by the way, going into week 4. Typically, this is not the case. But Brent Pry, he is out at Virginia Tech. And if you weren't watching the Hokies this weekend, they were busy falling to 0-3, losing to Old Dominion 45-26. Brent Pry, 16-24 since taking over in 2022. That's the second worst record among teams to spend entire span of the ACC. So Brent Pry, relieved of his duties in Blacksburg, rightfully so. The standard's got to be the standard, and Virginia Tech has a standard. That standard was not being met. VT is one of those places that I believe in. You can win there. Geographical advantages in terms of that part of the country: DC, Maryland, Virginia, the Carolinas. You can tap into Georgia. And here are the teams that you're competing against: Clemson, North Carolina, 73-year-old head coach; Virginia, Tony Elliott, on the upswing, it appears; Wake Forest, Jake Dickert; Penn State likes to get in there; Mike Loxley, Maryland, done an admirable job. Opportunity is there. but they need the right guy. They need people with vision. Brent Pry to me was a lazy hire. It's traditional values with high definition focus. Chris Peterson used to say that. I get it. The game's changed. There's probably a lot of doubt there. People are saying, oh, hey, how do we adjust? What does this look like? You can win, but you got to press the right buttons. You got to know where to recruit. You have to recruit hard. You have to put money into your front office. You have to surround the head coach with the right resources. You can win. The name that sticks out to me, John Summerall, Tulane head coach. Blue collar place. Bring your lunch pail. That's Virginia Tech. John Summerall is he's that type of dude, man. You don't want to meet him one-on-one at Oklahoma drill. I love John Summerall, and he's got that thing rolling at Tulane. I hate even talking about this in week 3. It's stupid, but here we are. But if I'm Virginia Tech, that's the dude. No questions asked. UCLA, they're open. I tweeted about them after they lost to New Mexico. DeShaun Foster, head coach, former UCLA alum, guy that was highly respected, took over a tough situation after Chip Kelly left, went to Ohio State. UCLA does not invest or take football seriously. They didn't when I worked there at Oregon and at Washington as an opponent, I should say. And it sucks because they're in California, an incredibly talent-rich state. They're in LA, a city everybody wants to be in. And you're in the Big Ten. And you play in the Rose Bowl. And I get it. It's in Pasadena. It's an hour away from camp. I get it. And there's worse things to sell. Vision, 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 vision. According to Bruce Feldman of The Athletic, the names being brought up, USC defense coordinator Deanton Lynn, former DC at UCLA. Hard to beat there, given his pedigree. Dave Aranda, Baylor head coach Kalani Sitake, BYU, Tosh Lupoy, Oregon, Tony White, FSU, Tommy Reese, Cleveland Browns, OC, Jason Eck, New Mexico head coach. With all due respect to these guys, UCLA should be a destination place. It really should be no different than USC. But it's about your mentality. You get what you emphasize. So this is your list. And if you don't emphasize athletics, and if you don't emphasize football, and if you don't want to be a killer, don't expect to have a killer program. I mean, obviously you can tell I'm passionate about it because you got a lot of programs out there that are not squeezing the juices of what they can be, the full potential. UCLA was one. Virginia Tech was another. They rightfully made the decisions to move on from their substandard here in week 3 of college football. But get it right, man. Get some alignment. Put your big boy pants on. Invest. And throw resources behind somebody that you trust and can present to you a vision that makes sense, both in the short term and the long term, and then can adjust and pivot when things change every 40 seconds in college football like they always do. All right, guys, just a reminder, you're locked into Coop's Corner. I've said it once. I've said it twice. We're growing this thing from the ground up. Hey, shout out to one of my listeners, Neil Chrisman. He didn't have to. I didn't talk to him. Neil's my boy. I'm on Instagram looking through my stories. Boom, what shows up? Hey, on my way to Baton Rouge, listening to Coop's Corner. Check out Coop's. I mean, what are friends for, man? If you got questions, if you got things you want to talk about, let me know. Leave a comment, leave a review. I'm all about it, man. Try to get some Q&A action going on here. If you know anything about me, that would fire me up. Like and subscribe. All right, let's talk about Arch Manning, number 1 player in 2023. Yours truly scouted him extensively. Grew up a few blocks from where he played his ball in Newman High School. Arch against UTEP, 11 of 25, 114 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 INT, 2 rushing touchdowns, 10 straight incompletions in first half, 44% completion rate, lowest in 5 career starts. I watched the Ohio State game and I said honestly, I looked at the tape and I said, all right, first game, defending national champs on the road, graded him out very low, but there were some things there that you said, all right, it's just a week-to-week thing. But the reality is he hadn't found it yet. And for Arch, when you break him down, I think a lot of people are saying, oh, is it psychological? Did we just miss on the evaluation? Like, is this a guy that was so propped up by pedigree that now it's playing out? And the thing that's been interesting for me is that Arch played faster, cleaner, and more confident last year than what we've seen over the last couple of weeks. And quite honestly, this was his worst performance. It appears to me like he is regressing, and the accuracy or lack of accuracy, which is an issue, really comes down to the lack of fundamentals and basic footwork mechanics. He's playing with a really wide base. He is overly reliant on his upper half. His upper half is the distortion of how he's consistently playing and getting the ball out and how that aligns with his footwork. I'm not trying to get too nitty-gritty. I'm not a quarterback guru. I'm just telling you what I see from a guy that evaluates a position. And it seems to me, more often than not, that weight is not getting shifted from his back foot to his front foot. And when it is when it appears to look the most normal and like himself. Outside of that, Arch is still playing the game like he's back in high school. It's not quick. He's not playing fast. I said this the other day on an interview I went on. You either play the quarterback position or the position plays you. And this is a guy that has showed us that he can play the quarterback position, granted, not against a high level of competition. But right now, it looks like he's got zero confidence in what he's doing. Zero confidence in terms of anticipation, zero confidence in his mechanics, zero confidence in getting the ball out within the structure of the offense. It looks bad, and we need to call it what it is. I mean, I had a big part in ranking him where he got ranked. And the first week, I walked away and I said, he's fine. Not worried about it. Talked about it with a couple scouts. Same thing. This week was like, that ain't good. It's a tangible and intangible thing to me when it comes to Arch Manning. So we'll see what happens. Next up for Texas, Sam Houston State. After that, the SEC slate gets started. Young Arch Manning still obviously trying to find his confidence. It all hinges on him if you're Texas. Guys, I enjoy breaking down all these games, especially Georgia, Tennessee, that one. If you haven't watched that game, I mean, go back, do yourself a service, and just enjoy it, man. Like I said, it's what football is all about. And hopefully this is what this show is all about. Hopefully we're starting to find our identity a little bit as we go into week 4 at the quarter mark of the season. Guys, I appreciate you being locked into Coop's Corner. I've said it multiple times. throughout the show. Make sure to like and subscribe on the YouTube channel. Leave a comment. You can do that wherever you find your podcast as well. All right, guys, let's have a great week. Let's lock in. And next week, it's going to be even better. I can feel it. Guys, I'm Cooper Petagna. Talk to you next time.